And the next talk essentially centers around MEV, but from the angle of the LSD networks and Syndicate. So this really is about, this continues the line of fractionalized ownership that you get at LSD. It's guaranteed at the Stakehouse protocol level. And because you have ownership of the underlying validator, you also have ownership of the distribution of MEV to your LP tokens. So this is about how you democratize it, how you get access to it, and what LSD is exposing to allow you to do that. Right. So what I'll do is I'm going to encourage Manol to come on the stage to give the initial introduction, and then we can get stuck in.
Hey again, it's me, Manol. So, right. I briefly touched upon what Syndicate does, but in this session we'll do a deep dive on. Basically, Vince will help you know out what Syndicate is. But prior to that, how does Syndicate gets its ETH and all? So that's what I'll tell you about. So pretty much fees and MEV here. Fees are all these transactions that you make on the execution layer. The user who makes a transaction puts up some fees. And the MEV rewards are more like how you reorder. So there are these entities. They look up for all these transactions and reorder them in order to maximize whatever they can get out of these transactions once it is finalized. So, okay. How Stakehouse deals with fees and MEV. So, yeah, this will be a quick summary about what I discussed previously. So, the 8 slot tokens count to all the fees and MEV rewards and the slashing. So 8 slot tokens get divided into 4 slot tokens, 4 and 4. 4 slot tokens are collateralized, which means they will incur all the slashing. The rest 4 are directly sent to the validators, the node operators wallet in terms of this ETH. So ideally, 1 slot tokens accounts to 3 ETH. So when 4 slot tokens are transferred to the node operator's wallet, that means 12 ETH gets transferred. So whenever the validator isn't performing well, the first slot to get hit is the collateralized one, because that acts I mean, that's what it does. It basically accounts for all the slashing and leakage risks. And if even that depletes, then the next is the rest of the 4 slot tokens that the node operator will have to pay. So, okay. So, yeah. Here we'll be able to differentiate between what fees and MEV pool is and what giant fees and MEV pool is. So, giant fees and MEV pool is one and only entity in the LSD networks. It basically collects all these ETH. You don't need to worry about where you are putting your ETH, because, I mean, let's say I have ETH, but I don't know which validator to select. So I'll put my ETH directly into the giant fees and MEV pool, and it keeps on collecting it. Whereas the fees and MEV pool is more like individual. It's unique to a single LSD. So let's say I have a little bit more information about what these validators are and how they are performing. So I would want to select a particular validator for which I would want to give these 4 ethers to. So I can directly reach out to the fees and MEV pool, deposit my 4 ETH, and it is very certain that it will reach a particular BLS public key that a particular node operator will run. But in case of giant fees and MEV pool, you just put it there and forget. Then any of the node operators can pick it up from there. So in return, you get your LP tokens, which you can basically hold, and you will keep on getting all those rewards that come in from the syndicate. Okay, so this here tells us about how this flow works. Basically, a user, when interacts with the Stakehouse contracts, will have to balance report. So Stakehouse contracts get to know whether the validator was slashed, what its active balance was, and then this balance reporting happens on the transaction router. So transaction router is one of the smart contracts in the Stakehouse contracts. And balance, as I discussed earlier, you need to first fetch the active balance report from the consensus layer. Then the deposit router would verify it, and then the transaction router takes note of it. So that you don't put random values to it and then try to hijack this transaction router anyways. So once user has balance reported and it is, he is very much comfortable that yes, the balances here are updated, then he goes to the LSD pool, I mean the Fees and MEV pool, and asks for all its balance or whatever it wants to claim, and then it interacts with the syndicate. So next, Vince.
So thanks, Manol. The syndicate is an interesting piece of the puzzle with LSD networks. So normally it's a difficult job to try and figure out if you want to redistribute MEV to users. How do you do the redistribution? How do you manage the accounting involved for doing that? So what we are doing is we're leveraging the Stakehouse protocol and the slot tokens as the accounting layer for execution layer revenue. So in the case of LSD, it's quite simple. Users are they are the LPs as supplying ETH. And if you are the LP of a Fees and MEV pool, you're adding ETH to that specific pool, that strategy, because you want to earn a pro rata share of execution layer revenue. So it's simply ETH in, ETH out for the users, but under the hood, it's using the slot token accounting layer. So all the complexities that Manol explained with regards to slot tokens, SETH, that's all abstracted away in the case of the LSD network and used as an accounting layer to do the distribution. So the syndicate is there is essentially a house fund splitter. It is there in every network. And it will split the revenue that the LSD network makes 50-50, 50% with the node operators and 50% with the Fees and MEV LPs. Both combined, they will supply the 8 ETH for the 8 slot required for every validator in the Stakehouse protocol. And that's why they're getting 50-50, because the Fees and MEV pool is supplying the 4 ETH, the node operators are matching the other 8 ETH, and then the third pool will actually bring the 24 ETH required for the final amount to stake with the deposit contract. Anyone can actually send ETH to the contract, but generally speaking, this is rewards from either the 1559, or if the node operator wants to run MEV boost, over nearly 97% of node operators are running MEV boost, so that's the default strategy at the moment for validators. So they just, as long as they configure their fee recipient, it will go into the syndicate and redistribute amongst all the LPs. The Stakehouse ETL, the consensus layer ETL, will actually allow people to observe and monitor the node operators that are not compliant, and LSD networks have the ability via their DAOs to vote report node operators that aren't compliant with the fee recipient. Now, there are more strategies that can be built with a syndicate contract. So syndicates can exist in isolation. So if you didn't want to use LSDs and you wanted to just go directly to the base layer Stakehouse protocol, you can use syndicate contracts to perform the syndication and fair distribution of rewards amongst people, and that's really what it's all about, is the democratization of MEV, right? It's not going to go away, but what we can do is make it easier to track, account for, and distribute among participants. And, it opens more programmable block space markets. So you can actually build markets that allow you to borrow block space for a particular number of slots. So you can actually offer node operators fixed income for a specific slot if you know that there is, maybe there is some kind of strategy that you're trying to perform inside of those slots. So it gives more consistent income for node operators and gives maybe potentially infrastructure providers like layer 2s the ability to acquire block space as needed. As I was saying before, the Stakehouse monitoring tool, it's the consensus layer ETL combined with execution layer mapping on the Stakehouse protocol, allows users to see where their ETH went. So if you are an LP into the Fees and MEV pool or even protected staking, wherever your ETH is deposited, you can track exactly what BLS keys it's assigned to, how much yield you're generating, who the node operators are, whether the protocol is compliant with its invariants, and it's simple traffic light system. You have the familiar hooks for people to understand what's good and what's not. This is live now working on Gorelli and mainnet. It's really easy for anyone to track and follow, and it just gives users more observability and ownership over their assets, really. So that's pretty much concludes sort of that part of the talk. If there are any questions, please feel free to ask.